Hi. To be frank with you, I'm going to find this very difficult because along with forgetting lines, it's an actor's nightmare to have to sell himself, especially as the show works best when the audience knows very little about its content before seeing it. Oh, by the way, some of you, if you really rack your brains, might just remember me as Alan Morgan in Take the High Road, which I was in for, 6 years. And if you explore my website, you'll see that I've done an awful lot of TV and theatre, including the National Theatre of Great Britain, for 7 years, in fact. Anyway, what can I say to entice you to see this unusual and, in my opinion, extraordinary piece of writing? Well, if you're a theatre goer, you'll know that for a show to attain a fringe first at the Edinburgh Festival is no mean feat in its own right. And for the British Council to send a show to India and Sri Lanka for 2 months means they not only loved the show, but had great faith in the integrity and power of its writing. The show came about almost by accident. I met Alison, that's A.L. Kennedy, at a social event in Glasgow. She casually asked me if I could help her with voice projection, as she was often called upon to talk about her novels in universities and book clubs. I said, sure, you write me a one-man show. Well, I was sort of joking, and then approximately 2 weeks later, the first act fell through my letterbox. It grabbed me immediately, and I was staggered by its rhythm and intensity. And when the second act came a week later, that was it. I felt overwhelmed and had absolute compulsion to test it out. So I travelled to Ayrshire to a theatre called Borderline and virtually accosted the artistic director, John Murter, who had a great reputation for putting on new and challenging work. I begged him to listen to the show. Well, he was as enthralled as I was. He immediately altered the schedule of his shows and slotted mine into the 1993 Edinburgh Festival. That was all 20 years ago. Anyway, recently I moved back to Wales, in fact to Llanelli, and almost at whim went to a local chapel and asked if I could put my show on. Eventually they agreed, even though some of the show is quite challenging to some people's sensitivity. It was a very small audience, but I handed them a letter asking them whether they would recommend the show to friends. I was amazed when 3 weeks later I put the show on again and the audience was quadrupled simply by word of mouth. It is now my experience that this method of publicity is by far the best. People recommending the show to other people. And because church halls don't require much notice, the show only needs a couple of weeks to organise. When I performed in Swansea, someone from the Arts Council of Wales attended. Consequently, the play is now on its list of recommended shows, so please click below on Night Out. Believe it or not, I am trying to keep this short, so I've included some video clips, but please understand that the show relies heavily upon its rhythm and consequently the complete journey from beginning to end, including the interval. So choosing small pieces out of context is so difficult. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that after some months of doing the show 20 years ago, one night in Glasgow, I said to the audience at the end, I'll nip backstage and have a few slugs of Diet Coke. If you're still here when I come back, we can have an informal chat about the subtext of the play. This proved to be so successful that it has now become the norm. Well, the bottom line is, please, just trust in the fact that I believe at the very minimum you will experience an intriguing and original piece of theatre, and that you won't regret making the effort to see it. To help you make up your mind, just take a look at the Chicken Shed review below. I'm also trying to encourage more young people to see it, though the minimum age is 15. So please click on Educational, which includes a recent review from a sixth form student. I do so hope to see you all at the show, and perhaps you could make yourself known to me if you come to see it as the result of seeing this video. Cheerio for now, and thanks for listening.